Hello everybody and welcome to this lesson. We're going to be talking about how to create an IFR flight plan as well as how to file said IFR flight plan. We're going to start off in SkyVector, a great free tool that any virtual aviator can use. It's skyvector.com. We're going to be filing a flight plan from Gwinnett County to Greenville downtown. To start off with, we need to get to our IFR charts. Now we're currently on our world VFR chart, and we're going to switch to world low up here in the upper right hand corner. Under world low, we're going to see our low en route chart for this area as well as the whole world. It's a great composite chart for us virtual aviators. We're going to zoom into Gwinnett County, Briscoe Field, right outside of Atlanta. And we're going to be filing a flight plan, creating a flight plan and filing it up to Greenville downtown. Now, before we get into that actual aspect, I do want to cover a few things to think about on your creation of your flight plan. First, you want to find a good route between you and your destination. You could, of course, use SimBrief, which is a great tool I do highly recommend for the creation of your IFR flight plan. But I want to also create one here from scratch so that you can fly from your favorite airport to another favorite airport that may or may not have a good route on file for SimBrief. So we're going to be flying from Gwinnett County, like I said, to Greenville downtown. The first thing we want to think about is the equipment on our aircraft. If we're flying with a /Gulf aircraft or an aircraft that has a WAAS GPS on board, we would be able to utilize the Tango routes or airways. You can see these blue routes. These are Tango routes, which are also GPS only routes. If we're flying an aircraft that does not have a GPS on board, just has VORs, for example, we can only use the Victor Airways. Now, if you're flying much higher than, say, 18,000 feet, you would want a world en route high, which would be this right here. Now, if we're flying just to Greenville downtown, the likelihood of us going all the way up to, say, 26,000 feet or 27,000 feet, something like that, highly unlikely because it's such a short distance. And again, today we're going to be focusing on flying this Cessna 172, but let's say if you're flying a Citation from a longer distance, maybe from Atlanta down to Tampa, you would, of course, have these routes that you can utilize. But of course, in that situation, I recommend using SimBrief. It's just as easy, and there's no reason why not to use it. We're going to go back to world low. We're going to work on filing or planning our flight here. Now, from our point of destination to our point of arrival, or our clearance limit, right here, there's several routes that we could take. We could take a northern route, or we could take a southern route. Today, we're going to plan the northern route, but it's also very possible the ATC could give us a southern route. But let's start with this northern route for now. So we're going to select flight plan upper left-hand corner, and we're going to type in our departure airport, which today is Briscoe Field, also known as Kilo Lima Zulu Uniform. And then going to Greenville downtown, which is Kilo Golf Mike Uniform. Straight line distance, as you can see, which also is an option for an IFR flight plan, by the way, is only 49 minutes in the air, a distance of 95.5 nautical miles. Now, in most situations when you're flying, you won't be doing a direct, but there's also a possibility ATC may clear you direct. And if that's the case, it's going to save you some time and save you some hassle. But you should always file with a full flight plan, just in case. Now, we're going to anticipate we're going to fly at about 115 knots today. Actually, let's make 110. That makes more sense. We're going eastbound. Eastbound means we need to fly at an even altitude. This would be, say, 5,000 feet or 7,000 feet or 3,000 feet, something along those lines. And we'll get into the altitude we'll want to choose here in a moment. Fuel on board, this is in gallons. Now we're going to have to worry about this part because we're not actually filing through SkyVector. We're going to file through a separate tool from VATSIM. So in our route, we want to choose the closest waypoint to our departure airport that isn't behind us. There's no point of going back to, say, Logan if we can just go straight to Womack. So we do have a GPS on board our Cessna 172. So we're going to be using this Tango route here. I'm just going to click this magenta line, bring it onto Womack, select Plan Womack. It's going to automatically put it into our route here. Then we're going to go up here and we want to get on this Victor 415 airway, which means we're going to take the Tango 414 to Milby. So we're going to select Milby here, plan that. And we notice that now we've got to get onto this Victor airway. The problem is, in order to do that, we need to get onto it through this VOR. Even though it's so close, we still have to plan the foothill VOR along the route, because it is not along the Tango route, which is the GPS route, but it is along the Victor airway. Next, we need to choose the closest waypoint to Greenville without going past it if possible. So in this case, Petal. Now we've got our route of flight going from Womack, Tango 14 to Milby, to the Foothills VOR, to Victor 415, and to Petal, and then direct to the airport. Now we want to look at a couple things along our route. You'll see this little number here. It says 4100 Gulf, 3700 Gulf, 3600 Gulf there, 2600 Gulf here, and so forth. These are altitudes, minimum en route altitudes, or MEAs. You must comply with these altitudes on these airways. For example, we've got 3700 Gulf, which means GPS, by the way, 3700 Gulf. And then we have 4,000 here with no G on it, because this is actually based off your altimeter, 4,000 feet. Not a altimeter, not a GPS route. So 4,000 feet here. So we need to be flying at least 4,000 feet. We're also going east, so 5,000 would make sense. Now, there's a couple things you also should note about some of these crossings. Notice here, it says at Tango 414 at Milby, we need to cross, that's why this little X is here at this flag, Milby at 4,000 feet going northeast. And that's mainly for clearance purposes or reception, something like that. So 4,000 northeast at Milby, which we are going northeast here. There's also another one down here closer at Womack. And it says if we're going southeast on Womack, which would be this direction, this direction, you need to cross it at 4,700 feet. Thankfully, we're not going southeast, so we're going north. So we could fly at, say, the proceeding, which is 3,700. So we could cross this at 3,700 feet and be perfectly within compliance. Now, our goal is to get up to 5,000 because, again, along our route, if we stay at 5,000, we're eastbound, loaded up and trucking, as they say, and we're going to be crossing over any restrictions along the route, which the highest is 4,000. So we are good to go there. So we're going to plan 5,000 feet on our cruise altitude from Gwinnett County to Greenville downtown. So we've got our route in, we've got our departure, destination. Now we want to jump over to VATSIM and look about how to file using their tool. So let's over to VATSIM and check that out. Okay, now we're at the VATSIM website, and what we're going to do is go over to Flight Planning tool, go to File a Flight Plan, and we're going to put in our call sign today, which today we'll say is November 292 Romeo Alpha. We're going to be flying on IFR. Aircraft type is going to be a Cessna 172. Our wake category is light, which means our maximum takeoff weight is less than 7,000 kilograms, which is true. Equipment on board, we're just going to put Gulf, which stands for GPS, or WASP GPS. If you did not have that, say you're just VORs, you would be an Alpha. You didn't have that, but let's say you had a FMC, a GPS, a VOR, ILS, all that kind of stuff like a Boeing 737 would have, or a Cessna Citation maybe, it would be a Lima. Now this traditionally would go in your transponder area, but notice it says transponder, skip if FAA equipped. What that means is there's a whole ton of list of ICAO and FAA equipment information that can be placed here, and you can do the research and figure out exactly what kind your aircraft you're going to be flying would have. But for simplicity, and I'm telling you from a controller standpoint, we don't care that much. All we're looking for is if you're an Alpha, a Gulf, or a Lima. So in this case, we're just going to put Gulf here and move on forward. Our departure, we already covered this, is from Kilo Lima Zulu Uniform, which is Greenville downtown. Our off-block time. So right now I'm recording this. We have a UTC time of 58 minutes on October the 9th. So if we're wanting to fly, let's say 30 minutes from now, we need to make sure we have a block time that matches. So in this case, we're going to put 0130 because that would be, well, about 30 minutes once we get done filling this out. Our altitude, remember we checked it out, it's going to be 5,000 feet, and we're going to put that in like so. Airspeed, 110 knots. Our arrival is Greenville downtown. Alternates. So you don't always have to file an alternate. There's a lot of stuff that gets into it. We're not going to cover this in the basic course, but I would always recommend you have an alternate on file. In this case, you kind of want to shoot past or on direction that you're heading. You don't want to have to turn around and head back a different direction. Like I wouldn't put Atlanta as an alternate. So in this case, I'm actually going to put Charlotte as an alternate. En route time, it's going to be just about 55 minutes, and that's what I'm going to put. Fuel endurance, this is how much you can fly at cruise speeds in your aircraft with whatever much fuel you have on board. In this case, we're going to have, let's say, half a tank of gas. Full tank of gas with Cessna 172 usually is about 4 hours and 15 minutes. So in this case, 2 hours and 45 minutes. So we're going to put 0, 2, 4, 5. Now let's talk about our route real fast. We already did this. We planned this on SkyVector. So we're going to go ahead and paste this route into our route details, which is Womack space Tango 414 space Milby space ODF space Victor 415 space pedal. Further on down, we have a bunch of information we won't get into today. It's not really pertinent to your flight plan, also not required. So we do want to have a date on file of when we filed this, which in most cases are going to be the day of which you're actually flying. Some cases it might be the day right before because, flipping over at UTC time. This is also based on UTC time, not on your local time. Remarks section, you can put all kinds of things. You can say you're a new pilot to VATSIM, uncertain, you're scared, you're frustrated, you're whatever, pertinent information you want the controller to know about you, you can put it here. A lot of times I do encourage new pilots to put in their remarks, new VATSIM pilot, or new virtual pilot, or first time VATSIM pilot. That allows us as controllers to know to give you maybe more information slower, but also to work with you when you're having trouble versus expecting you to, be proficient already. Also, under voice rules, there's several things you should probably pay attention to. You have voice, receive voice, and text only. Voice, we highly recommend that you can speak on the network. It is, although not required by the code of conduct, we do highly, 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 highly recommend it. It is so much easier for controllers to control when you have voice. However, if you can only receive voice and you're going to be texting to us, say you don't have a microphone, you do have that option under receive voice. If you're unable to do either, say maybe you have a special disability such as being mute or deaf, you do have the option to use text only. All right, with all that being said, now we're ready to file our flight plan. So we're going to hit File Plan. And boom, flight plan filed. Enjoy your flight. That's all it takes to plan your flight and file your flight. Hope this has been educational for you. Don't forget, you need to continue on learning, so I'll see you over in the next lesson.